mature content. Listener discretion is advised.
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
One angry New York City Puerto Rican decided to start a radio show, determined to piss the world off by shoving a mirror in front of society's face. He kicked them in the balls.
What are you? Who are you?
This is the Crotch Shot Radio Show. Crotch Shot Radio Show.
This is not a test. This is a broadcast transmission.
We're going to stay on the air.
And now, Louie B.
Welcome to the Crotch Shot Radio Show, where we kick the interviews. What the hell? Where we kick the issues in the balls. We're on an active war against bullshit. We would do anything and everything to expose bullshit. The ends sometimes justify the means, so if you're angry and want the truth exposed, then strap in and prepare to be shocked. This is Smash Mouth Talk. If you can't accept that, then fuck off. I'm your host, Louie B. I takes no shits from nobody. I expose the bullshit of society, and I give it to you in nice, easy-to-chew chunks. Today won't be any different. I am honored to have a huge guest, in my opinion. A very, my personal hero. This gentleman has, to say the least, balls. Massive. You might have heard of him if you watch the news and actually give a damn. Basically, what he's going to say will prove everything that I told you about how self-defense, how the police act in New York City. His name is Joe Lozito. He is author of the book, The New York Subway Hero, My Battle with Evil, and A Spree Killer. Now I give to you, Joseph Lozito. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, Louie. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I mean, you were supposed to be on the show 2 years ago, but I almost died.
Did you really?
Yeah, I had double pneumania.
Oh, I had that once.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I could relate.
Yeah.
I had that.
The day you were supposed to come on, that I had you scheduled to come on. In the hospital, they put me in a coma.
Oh.
They put me in a coma. And if it wasn't for a special machine at New York Presbyterian, I wouldn't be here today.
Well, you had it worse than me. The worst thing that I had to undergo when I had the double pneumonia was they had to drain my lung and one of my lungs, and they did that manually, and they actually took out about 16 ounces of fluid, either 16 or a liter, one or the other, but God, I didn't have to get induced into a coma, so I'm glad that you pulled through.
Yeah, I mean, it was just luck. It was luck, somebody looking out for me. Either that or Satan was like, no, I don't need no competition. Keep his ass there. So, I know you've done this interview. I know you spoke your story, but my audience probably hasn't heard your story before. Would you like to go into it?
Yeah, sure. You want me to start from the beginning?
Yes, please.
All right, so basically to set the scene for everybody, at the time of this incident, I was living in Philadelphia and commuting to New York. I lived in Philadelphia for 10 years, I'm trying to think. Yeah, Philadelphia for 10 years. I was working in New York at Lincoln Center. So basically, it was a 2.5 hour commute one way, drive to Jersey, take the train. And I got up, that day, Saturday morning, and I'm just going to work. So Drive to New Jersey, jump on Jersey Transit, take that to Penn Station, and once I get to Penn Station, my subway ride's about 6 or 7 minutes, drops you right off at Lincoln Center, and I'm there. Well, this day, I get to Penn Station, and I go to, I'm approaching the platform for the 1 train, which is the train I take to get there. Well, there were notices that there was construction on the tracks, so there weren't any local trains, so they were, the 1 was mimicking the 2 and the 3. Everything was express. So that day, I made a decision that I had never made before, and I walked over to the express tracks, the 2 and the 3 tracks, because I figured double the trains went there, I would get to work maybe twice as fast. And that's happened dozens of times, and I've never ever went to the other platform. For whatever reason, this day I did. So I go to the platform and waiting there for the 2 or the 3, and a couple minutes later the 3 pulls up. So I get on the subway, and I sit in the first seat behind the motorman. So basically, the only thing separating the motorman and myself is a wall. And it's a decent amount of people get on the train, and these 2 uniformed police officers get on the train.
You're thinking you're safe.
Well, yeah, I would think that. You would think that.
That would put me at ease. Okay, we got 2 cops here. All right.
Yeah, and I've been on the train with police before, and these 2 did something that I've never seen before, and that's they went in the motorman's booth to ride with the motorman. And I've been on the train with cops before, going station to station, and they just stayed in the car with everyone, and I thought it was a little weird, but whatever, We didn't move right away. We were sitting there, doors open, but again, who knows, with the construction on the tracks, I don't know, so I'm sitting there, or whatever. Finally, the doors close, and now we start moving, but we're going very slow. And I'm sitting here going, all right,
annoying.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Now, we start to move, and next thing I know, this guy walks up to the motorman's door. Now, for those of you not familiar with the New York subways, the door is a steel door, but there is a window, so you can see inside the motorman's door, and they can see out. So this guy comes up and starts banging on the door, and he says, "Let me in." Now, the 2 cops are on the other side of the door, so
with guns and shit.
Guns, nightsticks, mace.
Yeah.
So they look out the window and they say, "Who are you?" And the guy says, "I'm the police." And the cops on the other side say, "Well, you're not the police." And without incident, he turns and walks away. So I thought that was a little weird, because you figure if he was a cop, he would have showed ID or badge or something, they would have let him in. Yeah. But, I mean, he wasn't in uniform, but he could have been undercover for all I know, but I still thought it was a little weird. Well, next thing I know, there was a guy standing right next to me who made a beeline for the door, except he looked different. He looked like he was panicking, and he's tapping on the window and looking over his shoulder and tapping on the window, trying to get the attention of the cops, trying to get the cops to come out. And he looks like he's in a panic. And this is all happening right in front of me, and I'm thinking to myself, what the fuck is going on here? Because I honestly don't know. So the first guy, he starts walking back up to the door. The second guy that was banging on the door trying to get the cops to come out, he sees him, he hightails it back next to me. So now I'm thinking, really, what's going on? So the first guy's walking back up about 3 feet from the door and 2 feet from me. He looks down at me, I look up at him. He takes out this 8-inch cooking knife and says, "You're gonna die," and plunges it in my face under my left eye. So
where the police? I mean, I'm pretty sure they had a front row seat. Yeah, I mean, you would think, okay, we obviously have bulletproof vests on. We got guns. Yeah. We got there are 2 of us. Yeah. There's a citizen got stabbed. It's time to go to work.
Yeah, you would think that, but instead what happened was, as he drew his arm back to stab me again, I didn't think about it. I just figured if I don't do something, he's definitely going to kill me. So I went for a single leg takedown. And what happened was, though, I shot in too high, and I ended up wrapping my arms around his waist, more like a football tackle.
Right.
I figured I got to get this guy down. And it worked. I got him down, but in the process, he had free reign of my head and everything, and he ended up, in addition to the wound I have in my face, he stabbed me 3 times in the head.
Yeah.
Really bad. I mean, I have a big head, and he had free reign at it. So he did some damage in my head, but I did get him down. And while I had him down on the ground, anyone familiar with wrestling or mixed martial arts, I was in the dominant position. I was on top of him, but he still had the knife in his hand, and he was flailing it up at me, trying to stab me from the bottom, and I was trying to catch his hand. And the first time he swung up at me with the knife, I tried to catch his wrist and I missed, and he sliced me in my left thumb down to the tendon. The second time he did it, he sliced me in my left tricep. And then finally, the third time he swung up, I was able to grab his wrist. I slammed his hand down, and the knife popped out of his hand.
Yeah.
So with that, right then and there is when I felt a tap on my shoulder, and it was the cop. Well, it was a male cop and a female cop, and this happened to be the male cop. And he taps me on the shoulder. While I have him down, I'm sitting on top of him, and I got both his hands pinned to the ground. And cop says, "You can get up now. We got him."
We got him.
Yeah. So keep in mind at this point, I'm bleeding.
Right.
I ended up getting stabbed 7 times, and I'm bleeding like crazy from all of these wounds, especially the ones in my head. So I mean, I was like, I wasn't. I just had to get up, I didn't know what was going to happen next. So he tapped me on the back. I got up, and he took over. His partner didn't do anything. His partner basically was useless. She was more useless than he was. She didn't get down on her knees at all, hands and knees at all, try to help handcuff this guy. She stood there and said, "Oh, should I mace him?" The other guy said no. The cop said no, because then they'll stay in the subway and it could affect other people. So she basically just stood around not doing anything. Well, the guy who attacked me was wound up on I don't know how many drugs, whatever, and he was not gonna be handcuffed by one person. And I'm sitting there watching the whole thing go down. I'm wondering if this guy's gonna get up or whatever, and he didn't. But that's because a passenger on the train basically went and did the job of the second cop, got down on his hands and knees, and helped the officer handcuff this guy. So he's subdued. He's whining, let me go, blah blah blah, whatever. And I'm sitting there, and now we're in the tunnel. We're between 34th Street and 42nd Street. So I'm bleeding like crazy. So I'm assuming we're going to get the train moving, which was a wrong assumption on my part. Sitting there, and I was, just the blood was pouring out of me. I felt myself getting tired and weak. But for some reason, the guy who attacked me, he really annoyed me with his whining and how he wanted to get up and let me go, and I just got really pissed, and I just looked down at him and I said, "You better hope I fucking die, because if I don't, I'm going to come back and kill you." Yeah. Which honestly sounds great in interviews, and it would look great in a movie, but it just took everything out of me. Like it was like I had one burst of energy and I just basically blew it on that. So it was quiet though. Like once I did that, everyone was like, "Uh-oh," what's good, not that I was going to do anything. I wasn't in a position to do anything as much as I wanted to, but, I guess when you're bleeding at 7 different places in your body, you're not supposed to threaten a guy who did that to you, but...
Well, I mean, that, I think I mean, I'm no psychiatrist, but that sounds like a proper response to someone that stabbed you 7 times, and also, you know, realizing, you know, the people that are paid to protect you just basically just got paid to you just did their jobs.
Yeah, I figure I should get their pension for one day, maybe for the rest of my life. I don't know. But...
Yeah, why not? Yeah, I mean, you like this serial killer, the spree killer. In fact, hold on, let me Google him.
Well, yeah, and I didn't say his name or anything yet because I wanted to put your listeners into my head because I didn't know anything about this guy. So at the time when this happened, I just thought he was some random lunatic. I didn't know he had a history, but I found that out later. But I'll finish the story on the subway because it'll disgust everybody even more. So I have my little outburst, and I'm sitting there, and really, you know, it hits me. Hey, we're not moving, so I might bleed to death, and that was not an option. So we're not moving, and I'm going. You know, we got to move. Let's go. You know, when are we moving? And they said, yeah, we're gonna move you. We're gonna move you. You know, just you know, be patient or whatever they said. But they said we're gonna move you. And I'm just sitting there. I'm sitting there waiting, and minutes are going by, and a cop walks past me, and I grabbed their arm, and I said, "Hey, do you have kids?" And they said, "Yes, I do." I said, "I have 2 kids. I have 2 sons. I need to see my sons. They need to see me. You have to get me off this train." Yeah. Don't worry about it. We're gonna get.
Yeah. Don't worry. Okay.
Yeah. We'll get you off the train. Don't worry. You know.
You just made us look like complete useless assholes. Yeah, we'll get right on to like making sure you survive, so that way you could speak about how fucking lazy the NYPD is. Okay.
Yeah. So. Yeah. So another couple of minutes go by, and still not moving. And I grab another cop, and I said, "Hey, are you married?" And they said, "Yes, I am." I said, "So am I." I said, "I have a wife I love very much. I need to see my wife." I said, "You guys have to get me off this train. What's the holdup?" So they said they can't. They had to turn the power off because there were cops on the tracks, and if we turn the power back on,
what the fuck are they doing on the tracks?
Well, they were looking for this guy apparently, but if they turn the power on, they could get electrocuted. So I have to wait. I have to bleed all over myself in the floor.
What do you mean? Look at the guy. Didn't they have him pinned? What did he run? Did he run off?
I honestly, I don't know. That's what they told me, and so I said, okay. I said, well, I said, you know, I'm going to die here, you know, and I just kept saying, I need to see my family. I want to see my family. I want to see my kids. I want to see my wife. So cop says, just watch the back of the train, because at this point, more and more cops were coming on the train from at some point behind the car that we were in. So they said, the paramedics are on their way. They're coming from the back of the train. So I felt a little bit of relief. You know, maybe they're going to help me out. And I'm watching, and what I didn't know it at the time because I didn't see the passenger when he went to help handcuff this guy. I didn't see his face, but at some point, and I found out later it was the same guy. Guy starts yelling at the other passengers, you know, you're going to let this guy die in front of you. Nobody's going to help him. How could you just stand there and do nothing? And he came, and with just his bare hand, he put his hand over the deepest wound on the back of my head to try to stem the bleeding.
Yeah.
And then someone else had given him tissues or napkins or something, so that helped out a lot.
So basically, it wasn't the people that we fucking pay taxes to protect us, to help you. It was other random citizens. It
was a random citizen. I found out later his name was Alfred Douglas, and as the story progresses...
Shout out to Alfred Douglas. Thank you.
As the story progresses, you'll find out that I'm the only one that ever mentioned him in any interviews, on any television shows, in any newspaper articles. I'm the only one that ever mentioned him. So while Alfred's helping me out, all of a sudden I hear one of the cops go, "Okay, we're moving," and I'm like, whoa. I said, "What about the paramedics? You said they're on their way." And they said, "Oh, they're at 42nd Street waiting for you. They're when you get there." Yeah. So
how the fuck that?
Yeah. So I'm just like, okay. So we get to 42nd Street. You know, the station was cleared out by then because they were expecting us, and they knew they had a idiot on the train, and they had someone bleeding to death on the train. So they cleared out the station, and when we get there, the paramedics, they actually, for a couple of seconds, they had a hard time getting the door open, so that, typical. But when they got on the train, they lifted me up off the subway seat onto the stretcher. And as soon as they lifted me up, I passed out. And I was out for a couple of seconds. I could still hear everything in my head, though. But when I came to, that's the first time I felt any pain. I hadn't felt any pain up until that point. I had felt pressure. I had felt the blood pouring out of me, and I felt when he stabbed me, because I felt the pressure of the blade, but not it wasn't sharp. I had so much adrenaline. I heard him grunt and things like that, but I hadn't felt anything yet. And now all of a sudden, I woke up, and it feels like someone poured gas on my head and then lit it on fire. So they get me stabilized, and now I'm carried upstairs. But before that, there's cops behind me, and they're talking, and I can hear the conversation. And one of the things they said about me, they said I was likely. And I didn't know what that meant. So I said, okay, whatever, And it didn't make sense at the time. So they bring me up to the street level, and there are cops up there. So this one cop looks at me and asks the other cops, hey, is that the perp or the Vic? And I was like, really? I'm like, come on. First of all, and it made sense. It didn't make sense. It made even less sense later when I found out that cop had seen a mugshot of the perp earlier. So how he was confused, and I don't look anything like him. So how he was confused about that, that's...
Maybe he was speaking in general.
I don't know, but I mean, yeah. I found out later there was a citywide manhunt for this guy, and that they had all been given his mugshot. So and we don't look anything alike, but whatever, that's fine.
Yeah.
So
well, not really fine, but well, I already know your story, but I wanted you to say it, but I already know this. Later on, this story it becomes more disgusting and aggravating.
Yeah. So we get in the ambulance, and thankfully it was a Saturday morning, and the paramedics were awesome. They were great, and I basically just was begging them, don't let me die, keep me awake, don't let me die. I was begging them for painkillers, and they talked to me the whole way. They were awesome. I mean, they couldn't have been any better. So we get to the hospital, and they're waiting there for me, and paramedics are giving them instructions, telling them, where I'm stabbed, whatever, and they wheel me into this room, and there's 10 people in it, and I blink, and there's 15 people, and I blink again, and there's 20 people. It's every time I blink, there's more people. And they're, tending to my wounds and cutting off my clothes to see if I'm cut anywhere else, and it's just like this, it's almost like a medical conference with me in the middle, and I'm just lying there, and this cop comes to the head of the bed, and he holds up a mugshot, and he says to me, is this the guy who did this to you? And I said, yes. And he said, well, you're a hero. And I said, well, I'm not a hero. Why am I a hero? And he said, oh, he killed 4 people last night. And
someone in the chat room, Ashton, she says, this guy is a fucking champ, and I agree.
Well, tell Ashton I said thank you.
Well, she heard you.
Okay, thank you. So that was, I was dumbfounded when I heard that, because you hear all the time, well, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kick your ass, this and that, blah, but you're messing around most of the time. But this guy said he was going to kill me, and he really tried to kill me, and then I found out that he did kill 4 people.
Yeah.
So I was,
in fact, the name of the guy, his name was Maxim Gelman.
Yeah, Maxim Gelman.
Maxim Gelman. He this is what it says on the Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
He was in a 28-hour killing spree lasting from February 11th to February 12th in New York City, which involved the killing of 4 people and the wounding of 5 others. Maxim Gelman was arrested and pleaded guilty to the crimes. And you're the one that stopped him.
Yeah,
This guy was really brave. I mean, he went after a 54-year-old mother, another 56-year-old woman, 20-year-old female, 62-year-old elderly gentleman.
Well, I think what your listeners need to understand is the first guy he killed was his stepfather. It was his stepfather. He stabbed him about 55 times. Okay? Then the next person that he killed was the mother of the girl that he was stalking, a girl named Yelena Bolchenko. He went to her house, and Yelena wasn't home, and he ended up killing the mom. Then he came back. Look, Yelena came home. He came back, and he killed her basically on her front lawn, almost cutting her head off. And in all the hubbub and him trying to get away, he was carjacking people, and he actually hit 2 people with cars, and one of them ended up dying. So those were his 4 murder victims, and just gutless and
Well, of course, apparently he's one of the bravest men I have ever known. I'm being sarcastic.
Yeah, no, I got
it's
that.
Like,
but,
you know, I mean, look, obviously this dude is thoroughly fucked in the head. I mean, who would think to do this?
Yeah.
And just be like, okay, like, we're gonna kill some people. Like, normal people, if they're gonna cross that line, there's a real, they have a real good reason.
Yeah.
But
listen, I've said it all the time. I've thought about the scenario a million times. If my family is ever threatened, I have no problem ending somebody. I mean, and I think any parent, any man, any woman that loves their family, they love their sons, their daughters, their brothers, their sisters. I mean, if anyone tried to break in my house and tried to attack my family, I would do whatever I could to stop them. And
you proved that. With you, everyone else, that's just talk. I mean, me included. But you actually prove, and this guy was just trying to kill you, and you did everything you had to do to make sure you went home.
Yeah, that's it. That was the goal. I wanted to see my family.
Quick question. After all this, were you charged with anything? Did they try to charge you?
No, believe it or not, that's the one thing they got right. They didn't try to charge me.
Yeah, because I've made this point on the show all the time, especially in New York City, you're barely allowed to use your bare hands to defend yourself.
Yeah, no, I mean, the sad reality is I actually didn't even get to throw a punch. I really just took them down and disarmed them, so they really, maybe they wanted to arrest me, but they really couldn't get me on anything. I mean, unless they wanted to arrest me for doing their jobs, but they had nothing on me.
You were acting like a police officer, Joe. You made us look bad. Wait, he hasn't been to the academy?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. We're a bunch of slubs, aren't? Oh, but hey, let's go on strike so that way we don't have to pay extra money in healthcare costs.
Well, and I'll say this, full disclosure, my sister is a city cop, and I have. My wife has family members who are cops, and they're good. Are good, and we're good at their jobs. And I know other people who are cops, and I know they actually give a shit. And I've met a lot of cops. I can't even tell you. None, of course, that would go on the record for fear of retribution.
Right.
But I'm in Penn Station every day, and when this first happened, and I went back to work, I can't even tell you how many cops came up to me and had. Very, very kind words for what I did, and a lot of them asked me the same question: what were they thinking? And I didn't have an answer for them. So I think there's good and bad in
right.
every walk of life. It was unfortunate for me that I had 2 complete failures as human beings on that train with me as police officers, but I think if I had people that I know and respect and that take the oath that they take very seriously, I think it could have gone a lot differently. Unfortunately, for me, I had 2 gutless cowards on the train that day.
Yeah, and surely you have grounds for a lawsuit.
You would think so.
Yeah,
but I don't.
You don't?
No. What happened was a couple of days after the incident, I had to testify before the grand jury to indict Gelman, and I testified, and the male officer named Terrence Howell, he testified after me, and basically, from what I've been told, my testimony was excellent and very emotional and pretty much got the job done. They didn't need to hear anyone else's testimony. They were going to indict this guy. But Howell testified after me, and that was it. And while all this was going on, I replayed the incident over and over in my head, and I just knew something wasn't right. The type of person that I am, I really didn't want any of the attention because it's just not me. My everyday life is my everyday life, and I really only care about being a husband and a father. But I was forced into this, and even when I was doing interviews, I would say, there are good police officers out there that are heroic, and firemen and things like that. And I was always trying to deflect the praise because it's just not who I am. But what ended up happening, but like I said, throughout the whole thing, I'm sitting here going, something doesn't add up right. What took them so long? Because by the time I had taken him down on the train, my back was to the door. So, to me, they should have been out there before his ass hit the ground because they saw him stab me the first time. But I didn't have any proof, so I didn't really want to say anything. I just kind of kept it to myself and my family and, whatever, So I was off for work for a few weeks recovering, and I go back to work. And the first day I'm back at work, I'm leaving, and I notice I'm being followed. And I was on the phone with a buddy of mine, and I said, listen, let me call you back. There's someone following me. And he's like, really? And I'm like, I swear to God, I can't make this stuff up. So I kind of slow my pace. The guy that's following me keeps his pace, and next thing I know, he's right behind me. And I turn around really quick, and I said, can I help you? And I kind of startled him a little bit. And he said, listen, I'm not looking for trouble. He goes, you're Joe, from the subway, whatever. He goes, I really need to talk to you. So I said, okay. So he said, he introduced himself, but I honestly don't remember his name. He said, listen, I was on the grand jury that you testified to about Gelman. So I said, well, how do I know? He said, well, how can I prove it to you? And I said, okay. I said, tell me about the pictures they showed, because they showed pictures of my head and my face before I was sewn up, and they were very, very graphic, and they've never been made public. And he described all four of them to a T. So then I said, okay, so obviously you were there. And he said, listen, he goes, I really have to talk to you because after you testified that night, I went home and I watched a lot of your videos on YouTube and read a lot of the articles, and he goes, you're giving way too much credit to the police. And I said, you know what, my sister's a cop, and, she puts her life on the line every day. And he's like, listen, he goes, forget about how you feel about cops in general. He goes, these two cops hung you out to dry. And I said, what do you mean? He says, well, after you testified, he said, there's no doubt we were going to indict him, but then Howell testified after you. And one of the things he said really blew our minds. And I said, what was that? He said, Howell testified that he was watching everything go down through the window and the door. Mm-hmm. And when Gelman reached into his jacket, and that he had actually turned the handle on the door to come out. He hadn't come out, but the door was open. He was ready to come out. But when Gelman reached in his jacket, he thought he had a gun. So instead of coming out, he closed the door and stayed inside.
Huh.
Right? So that was like, on one hand, I was totally blown away, and I almost felt like I was attacked again, But when the dust in my head settled, I said, well, now it makes sense. Because like I said, I had all these questions that I couldn't answer. But now everything made sense. So I said, okay, now I got to go home and I got to tell my family this. And, when I told my wife and my kids and everything, obviously everyone was all upset because obviously the whole thing could have been prevented if they weren't gutless. But they are, and it wasn't. So I spoke to a lawyer about suing the city because somebody needs to be held accountable, okay? And when I visited with the lawyer, he says, okay, he goes, take a motion out of it right now. I want to tell you something. And I said, go ahead. He said, in regular life, what they did was reprehensible, and common sense would say you have a suit. You have a very good case.
Yep.
He goes, but I want to show you something. And he showed me these cases where the cases were dismissed or cases were lost because there is a loophole on the books. That is, it's not a loophole. It's actually a law, whatever, and it's mostly used in order of protection cases, which, when used in an order of protection case, makes perfect sense. When used in a case like mine, it makes no sense. And basically, in a nutshell, it's that the police do not owe a duty to protect. Right? You hear that?
Yep.
They do not owe a duty to protect. So basically, what they could have done that day, which is basically what they did. Once we're in this fight now I got them on the ground, now they can come out and, be the heroes for the ladies out there. If, God forbid, a woman's getting raped and they come upon it, they don't have to do anything. They can wait till the guy's done, and when he gets up, they can arrest him. They don't have to stop it. And when that woman goes to sue, they're going to say there's no special relationship between you and the police. They do not have a duty to protect you. Your case is thrown out.
Yeah, because the job of the police is not to prevent crime or stop crime. Their jobs are to arrest after a crime has been committed.
Well, yeah, I mean, the sad thing is, I mean, for other cops, for good cops, like this makes them look bad, because then the broad brush is wiped across all of them. So my lawyer said, yeah, we're going to go forward with this, but keep in mind, he goes, at some point they're going to look to dismiss this on these grounds. And I said, okay, and I was blown away. Like, I couldn't believe it. Like, I understand. I've never been involved in a lawsuit before, so I don't know how it works. And I figured that, they would do stuff to protect these guys, but I didn't know. And it seemed so shady. So, we filed our complaint, they filed their answer, and we answer that. Now they file their motion to dismiss. And the motion to dismiss is the funniest thing I've ever read. They cite cases, no case similar to mine at all. They cite over 100 cases, I think. There are cases in there that involve exotic cars. There are cases in there that involve office furniture. There are cases in there that involve teachers being attacked at schools. There are cases in there that involve schools not fixing fences. All this stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with my case. And I'm reading through this and I'm thinking to myself, there's no way this can stick. No way. And unfortunately it did. I mean, we fought. We did everything we could do, and we fought it, but ultimately, Judge Margaret Chan, who I've realized has a history of this stuff, dismissed my case. So while common sense would say that, I have a good case, I have a lawsuit, but according to the laws of this country, I do not.
Did anything happen to those two officers?
Yeah, you want to know? You want to hear something funny? What happened to the two officers? Well, I don't know what happened to the female Taylor, but the other day I was doing some research because I'm trying to do something now that I won't disclose because it's in the thinking stages right now. But I was doing some research on the officers and the judge, and when I put in a Google search for Terrence Howell, I saw that I don't know how many months later they actually gave him an award.
Oh.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. They gave him an award for his bravery, and when I saw that, I almost fell off my chair. So I wasn't invited to the ceremony. I wonder why.
Yeah. So wait, he got an award for his bravery for your arrest.
For apprehending Maxim Gelman. How's that? That's not bad, right?
Oh man.
You know what's funny? If people want to do a Google search for Terrence Howell, it's actually pretty funny. There's an article that was in a cop magazine about what he did. And I think it's the first two comments.
Yeah, okay. NYPD cop tackles rampage suspect on train carjacking, details emerge. Is that the article?
I forget what the magazine, it's like a cop magazine. And the first two comments from people are like, way to go, you're so brave, this and that. And then the next 20 or 30 comments are just people ripping it, going, that's not what really happened, you're a fraud, you're this, you're that. So that one makes me laugh. That article, and there's another article written by a writer named Pete Kotz, who I think writes for the Village Voice. And he wrote an article just killing me after we announced the lawsuit. Just called me a candy ass and everything. And I take that with a grain of salt. Yeah, it was funny. Listen,
wait,
where calls me and says, "Oh God, hey, don't read this article. It's going to upset you." And I said, "No, go ahead, send it to me." So he sent me the link. I was laughing my ass off. Like, I'm not real sensitive about that stuff, so I thought it was funny. My mom and my sister and my wife, everyone else was pissed, but I thought it was hysterical. But the best part is every single comment on there just rips this guy to shreds. And it's not even people I know. Like, I think maybe one or two people, but everyone else is like, "Are you kidding me? You're a candy ass. What would you do in that situation?" So,
seriously, in what realm of reality are you a candy? You fought a guy that stabbed you.
Well, I think he was saying that what I did was I took all the glory and stuff that people did for me, and I took it, and then I filed the lawsuit like it was a plan that I was going to get all this stuff, and then I was going to try to sue the city, and obviously it couldn't be further from the truth. And had he contacted me at all, I would have told him so, but he didn't. And the comments after the article are priceless. So every now and then, when I need to laugh, I usually Google those two articles and I read them and I read the comments, and it just makes me smile.
Honestly, you telling me the story is like fucking aggravating. It really is. I mean, and feel free to curse. This is totally uncensored.
No, and it's the best part is that I like that reaction from people, because I think the worst thing in a case like this would be apathy. I tell the story, and I'll tell it a million times, because your reaction is the reaction that most people have, is anger, because especially people that live in the city, whose tax dollars go to pay these people and their pensions and their medical benefits and things like that. So with the book. Well, the book hasn't sold a lot of copies because I have no marketing behind it, but the people that have read it are really passionate about it.
You guys could pick up the book, now that you mention it. Go to nysubwayherobook.com. That's nysubwayherobook.com. Or pick it up on Amazon. That is the New York Subway Hero, My Battle with Evil and a Spree Killer by Joseph J. Lozito.
Well, thank you for that.
Seriously, pick it up. It's also, if you don't want to get the physical book, it's also on Kindle.
It's on Kindle, it's on Nook, and it's on Google Play. And actually, if you go to the nysubwayherobook.com, it's linked up to all the ways you can order it. So it's a one-stop shopping, very simple buy website, very easy.
Yeah, look, you could nysubwayherobook.com/how-to-order. Just click the how to order link, and it shows you to order the paperback copy. Click here. To order the Amazon Kindle, click here. To order the Barnes & Noble Nook, click here. To order, it's also on Google Play. Have you thought about coming out with like an Android fighting game, like you versus Maxim? Just like,
no, I haven't thought about that. The reality is,
call it the Subway fuck up. Like you'll have the cops in the background, like
eating popcorn and stuff.
Well, no, not even. They're just cowering and they're just pissing on themselves. And then once you win, that one of the cops just sticks his chest out, was like, "I got this," and then locks him up and is like, "Whew, that was hard work."
I think, and I can't verify this because since it happened, they haven't allowed these officers to speak to the media. I wonder why.
Yeah. But because they'll get cut down. They'll, like, with words, of course.
Yeah, but I think what happened was I messed up their plan by not dying. I was supposed to die, and then nobody could go and tell the truth. And then by me not dying, I ruined their plan. So
that's really, insensitive of you, Joe.
I know.
Come on, man.
I messed up their glory, but hey, Howell still got an award, so I guess it worked out well for him.
Oh, I would have gotten away for it. It wasn't for these meddling Lozitos.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing was, it's funny that you say that because there was a show that was put out called The Killer Speaks, and I recommend people not watch it because it's full of bullshit. The production company for this show interviewed me for over 3 hours. And basically, when I watched it, it's basically an infomercial for the NYPD.
Of course.
And they interviewed me for 3 hours, and they used about 45 seconds of footage. And hey, listen, you know, when I say I don't want the attention, I mean it. You don't have to put me on at all. Don't waste my time, though. Don't talk to me for 3 hours, and then you didn't put my side of the story out there. It was just the side of the story about the cops. But it was funny at the end when they speak to Gelman, he calls me a nosy bald guy, and I got involved because I'm a nosy bald guy. So apparently I ruined his day too. So what can you do?
Yep. Yep. Yeah. So, yeah. So yeah, I mean, one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on is because in New York City, like gun laws are so strict. You can't carry any type of weapon.
Mm.
I'm surprised they even allow pepper spray.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I do security, and when everyone's favorite part of the class is the use of force. Yeah. And we're told you even if you're getting your ass kicked, if you put your hands on a suspect, you lose automatically. You're losing your job and you're getting arrested.
Oh, definitely.
You can't if the guy is trying to kill you and you break his nose with a punch, technically you could get arrested for assault.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They would have taken both of you in if you would have thrown the punch and hurt them.
Mm-hmm. No, I believe it. Nothing surprises me anymore, so I believe everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it really is ridiculous how and then they, you know, it's almost sociopathic on how the NYPD just lied and tried to sweep this under the rug and call this guy a hero when him and his partner were cowering instead of trying to save lives.
Well, I'll tell you like I tell everybody else. When I sued the city, my goal was to get this case into court, and I've been accused of being greedy. I've read people have said I was trying to get $1 million, and I read another report that said I was going for $10 million. Which the irony of that is my lawyer and I never even spoke about any dollar amount. The only people who spoke about any kind of money, and we kind of did it like, hey, you know, if we got this, it's kind of like, hey, if we win the lottery, you know, things like that. Like you just fantasize. But the reality is, I wanted to go to court because I wanted the truth out there. Okay, and you know, some people to this day still won't believe my side of the story, and that's fine. That's their prerogative. I you know, like with me, if I don't believe something, it would take a miracle to change my mind. And I know a lot of people are like that, and I accept it, and that's fine. The only thing I say to those people, and the only thing I say to everyone else is this. When we filed our lawsuit, there was one side battling their asses off to get this into court, to bring it to the public, to get this on TV, to get it in the papers. There was one side that was doing that. And there was another side doing everything in their power to dismiss this case. And I refuse to believe it was strictly financial because, let's face it, the city settles with people every day. The city, you know, they pay, you know, they arrest, you know, low-level drug dealers, this and that, criminals, and they pay them $5,000, $10,000 for information and let them go. So this is a government entity that is free with their money, you know. So it would have been easier for them to say, hey, we'll give you X amount of dollars, can we make this go away? But they didn't, because any attention is bad attention as far as I'm concerned.
Well, yeah, especially, I mean, and this was right before the whole stop and frisk scandals.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I'm just a mellow guy. All right, I'm mellow. I just go about my life. But when I have a strong feeling about something, I have no problem saying it. I absolutely 100% know, and if the people on the city side are listening to this, they know it too. I would have crucified those two officers in court. We did a hearing, a 50H hearing, where we meet with the insurance adjusters for the city. And he interviewed me for a little while. And when the interview was over, he told my lawyer, this guy is their worst nightmare. He remembers everything crystal clear. He speaks well. He's their worst nightmare. So this is someone from their side saying this. When you have a guy trying to lobotomize you with no painkillers, no Novocaine.
Yeah.
Being in the court of law answering questions, that's easy. I wasn't going to get rattled. The lawyers weren't going to rattle me. And I welcome it. See, had we gone to court, like they could have called me an hour before court and said, hey, get to court, we're going to go to trial right now. And I would have been there in a heartbeat because I don't need preparation because all I'm going to do is tell the truth. They're the ones that need a script. Their officers need a script. They're the ones that need to know, well, wait, what are we going to say happened? What are we going to do? This and that. So I wholeheartedly, from the bottom of my heart, know they wanted no part of this. Now, if their cops are heroes and they did what they're supposed to do, why not go to court and prove it? Why not? Don't tell me about budget. This city wastes so much money, it's ridiculous. They wanted no part of it because I would have absolutely crucified them. And it would have looked terrible for them. So, and it's easy to say. I mean, I'm not special that I say I would crucify them. Anyone else in my position that has the truth on their side would have done the same thing. Because I don't need to remember a story. Like Judge Judy says it all the time. When you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory. I was just going to tell the truth. So while they're up there trying to trick me and put me under pressure, this and that, I'm just going to sit back and tell the truth. And then when the officers got on the stand and my lawyer just roasts them because they're going to try to remember what they were told, that would have looked terrible for them. So that's really all I say to the people who don't believe me. Why was one side trying to get this into court and one side doing everything they can to keep it out of court? Because they would have lost, and they would have lost miserably.
I'm just speechless right now.
Good. That's the reaction I hope everybody gets when they hear this, because I'm not stopping. Like, I'm not, it's easy to say that, it's been 4 years now. It was 4 years ago this past February. So it's been over 4 years, and I guess at some point they think I'm going to stop, but I'm not. And, I don't know. I don't think I have any. We're working on something. I have a new lawyer, and we're working on something for an appeal. Honestly, I don't know what's going to happen with that, but I'm doing everything in my power to get my story out there.
Yeah.
And just make sure that it stays there, because when I want people, and it wouldn't happen really with Taylor, the female cop, because she was completely useless. Her name really wasn't used much in it because she was just almost like a spectator. Mm-hmm. But I want people,
and it kind of brings disrespect to when women start screaming for like the whole the pay gap, we don't get paid as much as women. Okay, well look, you're not doing equal work for equal pay. You just stood back and you were just watching. I mean, what's the difference between her and a security guard?
Well, in that case, they both did the same amount. They both did nothing, so they should get paid equal. And you know what? There are some badass women out there that would have taken care of business. I have no doubt about that. But basically what I want is if someone meets Officer Terrence Howell, like people, to this day, some people still recognize me. The other day we were at the UFC in New Jersey, and I had a couple of people recognize me. They want to take a picture. So I hope that if people meet Terrence Howell, just like people say, oh, you're the guy that stopped the killer on the subway, I hope they meet Terrence Howell and go, aren't you the cop that didn't do anything that day when Maxim Gelman was there and you were on the train to do a job and you didn't do it? Aren't you that cop? So this way he can go home and look at his, his trophy. He's whatever he got that day. He's a paper champion, I guess. But whatever, it doesn't matter. Like I said, eventually I'm going to use everything in my power to get this out there one way or the other, and, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, I mean, hopefully more people will listen, and they'll go order your book from New York, NYSubwayHeroBook.com. And I mean, they'll. I mean, are there? Do you know of anybody they could email or who they could talk to like put pressure on the NYPD?
The reality is, I think at this point, the only thing that's going to put any pressure on them at all is the media. And it's been sort of a frustrating last few years for me, because when everything first happened, I think I was accommodating to every media outlet out there, and I did a lot of interviews. I didn't turn anybody down, and and I guess it's just hearsay, not hearsay, but you just say it like, hey, if there's anything we can do, let us know. So when I wrote the book, and I wrote the book myself, I published it myself, I edited it myself. In hindsight, I should have hired a marketer or a PR firm to help me market it, but I didn't, because I felt I had made all these contacts in the media that said, well, if we can ever help you, just let us know. And basically it's been one after the other that doesn't want to do anything regarding the book or interview me or anything like that. So basically, if anyone's out there and they want to do anything, I would say, your local news, or like big news people like Anderson Cooper or Judge Napolitano or Bill O'Reilly, any big shots. I've sent books to all these people. I've sent books to Oprah. I sent books to everybody, and it's unfortunate that in this day and age, celebrities hold more water than the regular citizens. But that's just a fact of life, and I think it's pretty shitty. But if Oprah says, buy this guy's book, I'll sell 1 million copies before the end of the week. If you say it or I say it, I may not sell any. But Oprah says to buy it, now people run out and buy it. If someone like Bill O'Reilly or Anderson Cooper or Greta Van Susteren were to do a story on this, it would probably garner some attention. But if the local newspaper in my town does something, it won't garner any attention. So unfortunately, it has to go through the media. The media, I think, at this point is the only thing that can help me get the story out.
Well, there's the independent media. You were on InfoWars, correct?
I think that they used some of the footage, but I've never been interviewed by them. Huh. That's Alex Jones?
Yeah.
I've never spoken to him. And everyone, listen, I don't do a lot of this stuff like online. I'm very private. I live my life, my family. I kind of live in a bubble, so I never heard of a lot of these people that I met. And 4 years ago, I didn't know who Alex Jones was, and now I do, and I know he's very influential. And I think he's done stuff on my story, but I've never had the opportunity to speak to him. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, the point I'm making is, there's also the independent media that's slowly but surely taking over and becoming the mainstream, because people are getting tired. Like, MSNBC, their numbers are dropping. CNN, their numbers are dropping. I mean, it's like no one's taking their crap anymore, because it's all corporate, hee-haw type bullshit. And you got people who are not sponsored by anybody that doesn't have to worry about having to follow a narrative or lose sponsors or lose a job. They could, I could tell it like it is. I could be passionate about what you're coming from, and really, as a fellow New Yorker, thank you for taking that son of a bitch out.
Well, no, thank you for saying that, and I mean, you didn't give me much choice. I could do it or die.
I mean, but still, most, I'm just gonna be concerned. Most people probably would have frozen up and just died.
That's possible.
Most people.
Everyone tells me that. It's funny. I get a few people that say, "Oh, I would have done the same thing," and I said, "Man, you're better than me, because if you had asked me what I would do before it happened, I wouldn't know what I would do. I would like to think I would fight back, but geez, you don't know what you're going to do in a situation like that until you're in it."
I mean, case in point, I've taken Krav Maga. I've taken the gun disarming and the knife disarming class. Last summer, I was sitting on my stoop at night, and some dude stuck a gun in my face, and I was sitting down, and I froze.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, and I felt like shit.
Yeah.
I mean, luckily I got my stuff back, but you know.
No, it's brutal. You know, it's disgraceful that people think they can do stuff like that.
It's like, and like I kept thinking, what the fuck? Like I'm thinking, I'm a fucking coward. He's a fucking coward for using the gun.
No, you're not a coward. He's a coward. You're not a coward.
Yeah, I could have.
You reacted like a normal person. I mean, you know, you're not expecting. You're sitting on your stoop, getting some air, whatever, having a beer, having a smoke, whatever you're doing, and some gutless jerk off comes and puts a gun in your face. I mean, what are you supposed to do? Nobody's prepared for that, you know. So I mean, you're not a coward. He is.
Yeah, I mean, to this day, I mean, I haven't sat out on the stoop in like over a year. I mean, it's like, I'm not risking it because it's what another dude, you know, he was he put on a mask.
Mm-hmm.
Like and he didn't get any cash. He got absolutely nothing of value.
Right.
So I ended up basically friend zoning the guy. It's just. But I mean, okay, you know, it's like you fought through the pain. Like you get mad respect. It's like the initial, that initial shock of getting it in the face. It's like, ow. I mean, normally people would just be like, okay, enough fighting. I don't want to fight. No, okay.
Well, I appreciate that. You know, I've said it from the beginning that, you know, I appreciate everyone's kind words, but I'll never say that I did something that anyone else wouldn't have done because, you know, if I did it, anyone else could have done it. So I appreciate that. But I mean, to me, I was just put in a situation. I was put there for a reason.
Because no one else wanted to catch this guy. It was like, enough's enough.
Well, fortunately, it worked out in my favor because there were certainly people there that were not of assistance, and this could have gone really wrong really quickly, and thankfully it didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry that you know the sacrifices you had to make for this to happen, but you know it's like. Like you said yourself, you were put there for a reason. I mean, you know, if the trains were working on the weekends with the MTA, yeah, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
That's funny.
The L train just messed up today, so I was like, okay.
Yeah. No, and you know what? I try to be positive because you know the reality is I shouldn't be here right now, and I get to wake up next to my wife every morning, and I get to see my kids every day, and you know every day is a blessing. You know, I'm not overly religious, but you know I'm here. You know, I survived, and I'm very fortunate, and you know I get to watch my kids grow up and graduate college, and hopefully change the world. You know,
how many kids you got?
I'm just positive about it.
How many kids you got?
I have 2 sons.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So after all this, I already know the answer, but have you started taking up like mixed martial arts and stuff?
Well, it's funny because I always wanted to. I always wanted to train in something, and I never did really because of work. And but yeah, I train at Belmore Kickboxing Academy, and it's in obviously Belmore, Long Island. It's a nice little small old school kickboxing, boxing, MMA gym. We have 5 guys that train there that are in the UFC right now. Chris Algieri, who just fought Manny Pacquiao, trains there. So it's a gym. Anyone that watches UFC, the big name gyms all over the world. This gym is probably a fraction of the size of it, but it's just hardcore. The trainers and coaches there are amazing, and I love it. I wouldn't want to go anywhere else. I love it. So for me, that's my place. And my 2 sons, they actually take Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at one of Matt Serra's schools here on Long Island. So we're all doing pretty good.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I've taken Krav Maga. I'm planning on going back.
Yeah.
You have a project, but you're not ready to talk about it now. Any other plans going on?
No, man. I just I just live my life. You know, the thing that I'm working on right now, it's really in the thought stages. I have to. It's going to take me a bit to put it together, and this would be. Unless anything happens with the court system, which I'm not holding my breath, this would probably be the last big thing I can try to do, other than people kind enough like yourself to have me on their shows that I can do on my own. So I don't want to really talk about it because I'm like superstitious. I don't want to jinx it, but
right.
If it's successful, it could be pretty big. So. But other than that, no, man. I go to work every day. I come home. I value my time, my family, and that's it. To me, hanging out with my kids, hanging out with my wife is more important than any other project. I was given all these days, these extra days with my family, and I just try to make the most of them. So, I'm just a regular guy. I'm actually a very boring guy. I come home, I watch my sports, hang out with my family, and that's it.
All right.
Yeah.
Alrighty then. So, Joe, I love having you on. Feel free. Like, it doesn't matter anything. If you want to come on, let me know.
Yeah, anytime, man.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully you had fun here.
Definitely.
I again really enjoyed having you on. I thank you again as a fellow New Yorker. Yeah, man. Like, if you needed an attack dog.
I'll let you know.
I got your back.
I got it, man. I appreciate that, man. Listen, I tell you the same way I tell everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for you're thanking me, but I thank you because without people like you that have really taken an interest in the story, it doesn't mean anything, and. So you're giving me a platform to put my story out there. So thank you very much, and it was an honor to come on. I appreciate it.
Oh, the honor's all mine having you on. If people want to contact you to go on their shows, how can they contact you?
Probably the easiest way to contact me is on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @Joe_Lozito. That's @JOE_LOZITO. I'm on Twitter all the time, so if anyone wants to get in touch with me that way, that's probably the best way, and then we can go from there.
Alrighty, so yeah, that was Joe Lozito and the New York City subway hero. Just like to thank everyone for listening to today's show. As always, check out my blog, rantinglouisb.blogspot.com. Please feel free to click the Amazon links. Also, please support Joe by going and buying his book at nysubwayherobook.com. Again, that's nysubwayherobook.com. Joe, thanks for coming on.
Oh, man, thanks for having me, brother. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you. All right. As always, this has been the Crotch Out Radio Show. I have been Louis B. I will always be Louis B. Why am I stuttering now? So, yeah. And as always, from my house to your house. Mahalo.
That's the end of my show. Donk.